Tell me about, before we get to that, though, sustainable packaging. Let's talk about that for a minute. Is that
Cool.
You work for somebody? You started something? Define that for us and tell us what your part is in that.
Yeah, so when I moved back to Bowling Green, the reason we moved back primarily was we were raising our kids and wanted to have our kids in a community with our family and with people that shared our values, we looked up to, respected. And one of the individuals who was a mentor from my college years, his name's Al Caperna, and he's an entrepreneur, owns a bunch of corporations, and he called me back to say, I want to start something up. I want you to start it for me. And I want to see if we can't find a way to engage business, the private sector, and nations throughout the world. So we started this organization called Affirm Global Development, which today has really become a charitable extension of his holding company called CMC Group. And that organization ended up not succeeding by the parameters we had set economically. We were selling things like energy efficient stoves and water filters and things that would help the poor, but creating jobs in the process. So midway through that, Al called me up and said, hey, this isn't working, but I have another idea for you. We sell this material called water-soluble paper, and we use it to create labels. In our company, one of the divisions is called Daymark. Daymark had brought this innovation in from Europe in the mid-1990s and was having wild success with it. Well, we believe that there's great opportunity for this material, but we really need somebody to do deep market research on it. So they asked me to come in and do the research. My recommendation was, after 6 months of investigation, you should launch a separate business unit that has the freedom and the ability to take this into a new place without having to answer to kind of the, corporations are going to try to squeeze out innovation to increase efficiency. It's the challenge of any organization. My recommendation was to incubate it, let it create its own path and move forward. And in that recommendation, they asked me to lead it. So that was in 2016, and it is now profitable and growing at a very fast pace, and fascinating to see the opportunities coming at us.
And what does it do specifically?
So there's a few types of products that we work with. One is labels. So dissolving labels that go on containers in the back end of restaurants so that you can reuse those containers. But one of the fastest growing areas for us is pouches. You might be familiar with Tide Pods, which you put inside your dishwasher. Well, there's a whole slew of other opportunities out there with toxic products and chemicals that people don't want their employees to touch. So they put it in a water-soluble paper, and that allows them to pre-dose it. They don't have to touch it. They can just throw it into the solution, and away it goes.
I see. That's funny you say Tide Pods. Part of our, when we go out on every one of our podcasts, at the end, we say, don't eat the Tide Pods, because people were eating the Tide Pods. And I found that to be
phenomenon. I can't believe it.
Yeah, both tragic and funny at the same time. And so you're heading up. What was that like? Did you have any business experience? Had you ever done something like that before?
Well, leading Affirm Global, we created it as a private sector entity. So I had 5 years under my belt of running that organization with operations in roughly 16 countries, very small operations, but that's where I cut my teeth in running a business. So I had 5 years of real practical business experience and a whole lot of failures that led into that 2016 launch of SmartSolve.
Yeah, that's the critical part that you hit on. That's what I was looking for, is where'd you learn to fail doing that? It's a lot
of failures.
It's a lot easier to set one up after you failed at it a few times.
It's tough to just, don't you?
Well, yeah, that is learned experience the very hard way, I can assure you. That's why I was going to say, if you jumped in and right off the bat got that thing profitable within 4 years and it's doing well, well done. That's hard to do in any scenario. Even more so if you didn't have any experience. I was going to say that's even more impressive. But
thank you.
You've got help though too. You got a mentor and somebody that's connected to it to help you out, and that's important. Those two things, experience and people you can lean on, are two of the most important parts when it comes to business.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely a team effort, and having CMC as a holding company with the ability to leverage centralized operations and warehousing and a whole slew of resources we wouldn't otherwise have gives us a huge ability to scale very quickly. And there's a lot of demand out there for more sustainable packaging. Since we sell a bio-based material, we have Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies working on projects with our materials in order to try and reduce the packaging that's not sustainable. And I would be remiss without saying, Jerry, this is my conviction, is that the best way to create a more sustainable global effect on the environment and on climate is through the private sector. And there's just no doubt about it. All the public regulation that we throw at the private industries is going to hurt us, injure us, and it's just going to give China and India the ability to do the same thing at much larger scale and sell it back to us. So I believe the private sector is the best way to innovate our way towards sustainability.